Isabelle,
What's up?
welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I would love to know more about you. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so, I'm Isabelle. I'm from Austin, Texas, born and raised. I'm a grad student right now. I'm working on my doctorate of physical therapy. So I'm a big gym person, and yeah, I just love to be active and have fun, pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
26.
Yeah.
Okay. And how tall are you, by the way?
Oh, I'm 5'2" and 3/4.
I love the 3/4.
Yeah, I always got to throw that in there because it's almost 5'3", but I'll be honest.
Yeah. So my girlfriend just measured me, and I've always said I'm 6'4", and I legitimately thought I was 6'4", but it turns out I'm 6'3.5". Oof. I still say I'm 6'4" though.
Yeah. I feel like when you're at that point, like, it's okay to, that's like a tiny little nudge, but it's the 5'10" being 6'1".
Right.
That's where we get into the you're going too far.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. My girlfriend doesn't give it to me though. She's like, "You're 6'3". I'm like, "Thanks a lot. That's great."
You need somebody to humble you sometimes. Bring you right back down.
Okay, before we dive into your dating life, I want to find out a little bit more. So, what is something that people don't generally learn about you until they really get to know you?
That's a good one. I would say it's honestly probably like the evolution of my sense of humor. Once you really know me, you get like this, like you unlock this element to it that I don't think I'm willing to like give to somebody I'm like just getting to know.
Does it get dark? What are we talking?
I mean, I think it's a good range. Like it can go all over the place, but like I know once I get really close with friends, like I'm more comfortable like really roasting them or kind of like it's all love and all kindness, but like I'm more willing to like throw shade or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the best way to put it,
So you're
but
an
you know what I
asshole.
mean. Yeah, basically. But like it's cute, it's charming. But yeah, it can go there.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
What does a typical weekend look like for you?
I work at a bar, so sometimes that's like my social outing for the weekend is working in the bar since it's so much conversating and, talking to people. But weekends that I don't work, I really like to just make plans with friends, whether that be like just making dinner at someone's place or going out somewhere, trying some new spot. And I'll usually try to do something like fun and active, like get a long workout in since it's kind of harder during the week, or like go out on the trail.
What is the landscape of the gym scene these days? I'm so out of it, but I met a guy who owns Atomic. I guess there are two locations: Atomic Gym. There's Lift ATX. There's it's not Crunch. It's Squatch. Squatch Fitness.
Squatch.
Yeah. So there's all these little gym communities around,
Yeah.
and I feel like that would be a good way to meet people. And I've seen on Instagram stories a lot of run clubs and lift events. So
Yeah.
what is it like?
So, for me, I don't notice much like at Gold's. I think commercial gyms, sometimes people mind their business a little bit more compared to my friends who like go to Lift or those kind of more smaller knit gyms. It seems like there's more of that community of like interacting with one another and, exchanging numbers with somebody you see.
At those gyms like Lift ATX, are there a lot of dating situations happening? Are people approaching people at those gyms?
That's what I've heard. I haven't been myself, but just like, yeah, I think it's a very social gym. And I know like a lot of people go and like film content there. So I think it's just like there's kind of like this like accepting of others there that maybe you may not get as much at the other gyms because it's like, you're being filmed and other people are kind of doing their thing around you. And it's like a safe environment to kind of like talk about those things. Like I think it adds another element of like, we can talk about this and we can share this where other gyms may not get that as much maybe.
Yeah. I wonder if people who go to gyms where you just put your headphones on and you just, plug in, right? Whether you're missing out on meeting people, because I feel like the gym is a great way to meet people and build community. And I think a lot of people assume that they can't approach at the gym or they can't meet people at the gym. And I actually like the idea of these gym communities popping up. I feel like it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm somebody who does like, I do love to go to the gym and lock in per se, but I'm not one of those people who think it's like, you shouldn't interrupt me while I'm working out. But there's a way you go about it, right? And there's ways you don't go about it. And I think that's where it's difficult, because sometimes people, I guess, are like not reading that room, or I've had some really insane things men have said to me to get my attention or start talking to me. And it's like, if you just would have approached that differently, like I would have probably been more receptive. But now I'm putting my headphones back in and, you know, keeping on with my workout.
What are some of the craziest things that they've said?
I mean, for me personally, one or a couple times, it's been like just leading with talking about my physique. And it's just kind of forward. Like I get that's what they're working on. Like I'm not unaware of that fact, but I don't think that's what like the first words you should say to me is like, you look great, or like your body looks really good. It's just a little weird. But I remember one time this guy was like, hey, I can't tell if you're 14 or 40.
Oh my God. That's a terrible line.
I don't know. I was like 22. I was like, neither. That was an insane thing. So I didn't really want to interact with him much after that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What advice would you give guys on how to approach you at the gym?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is like, even if she might look like she needs it, I don't recommend asking if she needs help with anything. 'Cause that's been one thing that personally always rubs me the wrong way. But I would just say like time it out well, like in between sets or if between exercises even. And yeah, just express genuine interest, or like I think showing support, or like being like, that was like badass what you were just doing. Like even if you don't mean it, like that's just a nice way to kind of get that conversation and break that ice. But yeah, you walk a fine line of like complimenting but not complimenting the wrong things.
I agree with that. I think the timing is so important. If you just wait until they're stretching or they're walking out the door, that's a great time to catch someone. And I think people underestimate just saying hi and saying, hey, I saw you over there and I wanted to introduce myself.
Right.
It's that simple, and just starting a conversation that way.
Exactly.
I don't think people need to have the perfect line.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, people lose the plot there for sure. And you know, for most cases, I feel like a gym, you know, you're going to see that person again. So there doesn't need to be this urgency of like, let me get your number right now.
That's a great point. Just be patient, especially if you have seen someone over and over again. You can be pretty confident you're going to see them again.
Yeah. Like, okay, it's 10 a.m. on a Friday. Like they like this time. Maybe I'll come around that time again. I do think it is a really great way to meet people, and you're already like knocking off that like-mindedness of, you know, having a routine or having a regimen. So that's so nice. So I'm totally for meeting people at the gym. It's just finicky.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect time to dive into your dating life.
Okay.
What has dating been like in Austin?
You know, a mixed bag. I am a relationship person. I think at heart, I have tried doing casual dating, and sometimes like it can work like situationally. I think like if you're in the right headspace for it, but I typically am not. And unfortunately that seems to be the dating scene, is like kind of wanting to keep things casual and, you know, fling for a little bit, then move on to the next. And I don't really do well with that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you mentioned when we were talking on the phone that you're not on the apps anymore.
No.
Why is that?
I mean, it was kind of a variety of things. Like once I started school, I knew I was like, I don't have time to be like really shopping around like this. But to that point, like it wasn't worth it to me to keep doing it with the little free time that I have, because I felt like the general dates I was going on, they weren't doing anything for me. It was just, I don't want to say a waste of time, because I think you can always learn something from dates, but I never left them really feeling like it was taking me in the right direction, I guess is the best way to put it.
I've heard that dating apps are dying. That's just what I keep hearing on social media. I'm curious, as a 26-year-old in your friend group, are a lot of your friends removing themselves from the apps, or are they staying on it? Or are they going through the secular thing of they'll get off it and then in 2 weeks they miss it and they get back on?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I am like the pinnacle single friend. Like my two closest friends are married. My sister, who's my best friend, is in a long-time relationship. I have a couple single friends, like lifelong friends, but they're also kind of people who aren't like as interested in a serious relationship as I am. So like the casualness, like, they love. But I'm just not like that. So it's hard to say with my friend group. I feel like I'm kind of like the odd one out in a sense. So it's usually what I see is like they're trying to set me up on dates with guys that they know, like that their husbands know, or, you know, their friends, ex-boyfriends, whatever, like all these like long distance things. And so that's usually what happens for me.
How is that working out? Because I would think theoretically that's a great way to meet people is through friends. And I actually don't mean theoretically, because I've interviewed a lot of couples and that's how they meet.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of reasons for why it's so good, including that your friends know you. And so they might have a better sense of what's compatible.
Right.
And there's also accountability, because if you know the same people, there's less likely that people are going to show up in a not so great way.
Right. Totally. I mean, I would say as far as like the personalities that I've been set up with, like I feel like I always get along really well with the guys, and that's great. You know, there wasn't really like a spark there. I didn't feel like romantically involved with him, but like as a person, I could talk to him a lot, and I enjoyed the date because we were able to talk, but I didn't see it going anywhere. And then in like two other circumstances, like hit it off romantically and like we're really like, I thought vibing, but I think it was a difference in intentions then. And so then that's kind of where that fizzles out, because it's like I was looking for one thing and I didn't get the vibe that they were looking for the same. So, yeah.
How do you filter that out?
I don't even know. I'm still trying to figure that one out, because I often find I feel misled a lot of the times by guys with how they like interact. Because it's one thing like if you're kind of getting the cold shoulder, kind of getting like a coldness, I'm like, okay, but you're still entertaining it. That's where I kind of filter out, being like, I don't think you're like really interested in me and you're trying to like show that. But I do often feel like they don't do that. It's just once they've decided that it's not really working for them or they're not interested, then the effort just kind of drops off and it's like, where were we? Like, it's Sunday, like there's just a shift. So hard to filter out when that's the case.
Yeah. Are you having conversations early on where you're expressing that you're dating intentionally?
So that's actually the thing that I've been battling with, because I've been told by like my sister and some people, like maybe I'm kind of having too high of an expectation from the start, and that I should let it, like, you need to get to know the person and feel it out before you start like laying down the groundwork of that. So sometimes when I don't say anything about it, then it's like I end up in the same place either way, because I have like tried to communicate that before. I've just like, yeah, I'm not into casual dating, but I don't know. I think sometimes people just, when they want like the connection of building a relationship, they kind of look past that, like what you're telling them, because it's just for their gain. You know what I mean?
So you've run into situations where you've expressed that you're dating intentionally. The guy seems to indicate that he is as well.
Yeah.
And then down the line, he's like, actually, I'm not, or you're getting signs that he's not.
Yeah. And I would say more often than not, it's the signs. It's like, the energy in between the first couple dates and stuff, it's different. And then that kind of like slow fizzle out where I'm like, all right, like I before anything ever happens, like I can already sense it.
Yeah. What, in a perfect world, would you want to communicate early on and have them communicate to you, just to get it all out of the way, theoretically?
Ooh, yeah, theoretically. I mean, if people would just make it clear early on that like, oh, this is exactly what I'm interested in, or like what I ideally would get out of this. Like, it may not go that way, and that's fine, but knowing like what they in their head are picturing this relationship to become.
Yeah, I think there's a balance here, because I've heard both sides of this, where people say, tell the guy exactly what you're looking for on the first date. Say, I'm not here to date casually. I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I want kids. I want, this is the way I want my life to look like.
Right.
And on that extreme, it feels like a job interview, and you're missing the ability or the organic feeling of creating some chemistry.
Yes.
And on the other extreme, if you don't say anything about what you're looking for and people are just making assumptions about what everyone wants, then you start to waste your time at a certain point. And I wonder if the balance, and this is a question, I wonder if the balance is first date is more of a vibe. You just try to get a sense of, is there some curiosity here? Am I curious about getting to know this person more?
Yeah.
And then on the second date, you start having these conversations around, hey, I'm dating intentionally. I'm just curious, what are you getting out of dating, or what are you trying to get out of dating? And I think starting to have those conversations on a second date without it being too heavy-handed might be the compromise. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And I feel like my thought process with it was third date. Like once the third date hits, then I'm allowed to kind of be like, so what are you feeling about this? Because this is what I'm feeling. Because I feel like so many times the first date, it's really just like just waterfall of information from both ends of just being like, are we cool? Are we cool? Do we like this? And then it's like second date, sometimes it's still too early to really like narrow that down. And even though I am somebody who like wants a serious relationship, I don't feel like I need to rush into it. So I don't want to rush that conversation, like you said, of it can be very intense to be like, I want kids, I want a house, and so I'm okay with letting it take time, but I wish there were like little easier ways to kind of get pulse checks. I know I've personally struggled with like being really forward with my communication, because I feel like, especially as girls, you're kind of taught like to play into the game and not like worry about it too much. But I worry. And so I like want to be able to get that out there. And so I think sometimes I like kind of put maybe like a stress on somebody without realizing it, and maybe they're picking up on it.
On your date experiences, the ones that have felt like interviews versus the ones that have felt fun and easy, what has made the difference between those two?
I mean, I think it really is just like how well you click. Because you know how like conversation can just kind of start flowing. You talk about one thing and that kind of puts you off on a tangent with another, instead of it being like, not that anybody's ever read from a script, but kind of where it feels like they're going down a list of checking boxes. But I feel like I've been lucky enough, not all my dates have been like amazing and fun necessarily, but I've never felt like I was being like old school interviewed by somebody on a date. Like I feel like we've always been able to make it where it feels just like having a conversation with somebody. And granted, it may be a conversation I don't know if I'll have again with that person, but making it feel light enough to where I'm not like, like, am I getting graded on this?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
I feel like on a date, I try to talk only a third of the time and allow my date to talk 2/3 of the time, because people love to talk about themselves. It makes them feel good. And so that can actually generate some chemistry on the date, is when someone feels like someone is taking an interest in them, and legitimately you should be interested in your date and asking good questions and active listening. But that's a great way to establish some chemistry. And I feel like if you're doing it in a way that is not a list of check the box questions and it's just organically allowing threads to flow, or you're following threads in the conversation, that's a great way to establish some of that easy, light, fun chemistry versus the job interview.
Yeah, I mean, the worst like feeling is when they're not asking me any questions at all.
Right.
And then I'm the one feeling like I have to interview to make any kind of conversation and fill that time and space up with them.
Do you ever prepare for a date?
I mean, like in some ways, yeah. I feel like I just try to get in like a good mindset and just think about like if certain conversations were to come up, like how I would approach it, or questions I know I'm going to get asked. Because sometimes, you like, even with the job interview, you're like, why did I answer that question that way?
I think that's so smart. And I don't know how many people do that. I think it's something that people don't really talk about. But I literally would have a note on my phone, and it would be an update about what is going on in my life right now. So I would have things to talk about.
That's
so
good.
It was, what was I reading? What was I listening to podcast wise?
Yeah.
Did I see any movies that were interesting? What's going on with work right now? I'm really into two-stepping, and so did I recently see a really good band? Like, just what is going on in my life right now? So if the conversation lended itself to that, it would give me something to talk about.
That's nice.
Yeah. I love what you said about, I know I'm going to get asked certain questions similar to a job interview. Why not just have a good answer to give? So a common question is, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, yes.
If you just know the answer to that, right, instead of just like, yeah, it's been, like
right.
You can create a little bit more fluidity and more of a vibe, and you can come across as quicker and more exciting if you have good answers to those questions. I also like to have variations of questions. So I would not ask, what is your favorite movie? I would say, what is the last movie that made you cry? I feel like that's such a better question. It's more interesting and it pulls out something deeper.
Yeah.
But also it could be fun, right? Or what's the last movie that had you cracking up? Like,
yeah,
those types of questions versus the standard questions that everybody else asks.
Right.
So I would literally have a list of questions on my phone ready to go.
Yeah. I love that because movies I think is one of those really easy things to talk about. But yeah, like kind of just being like, what's your favorite can kind of feel just like boring, but yeah, making you actually think about, oh, when did I cry last? Or like, and then that kind of sparks a conversation of like, well, what made you sad about that movie?
I think if you have your own answers to those questions too that are ready to go, 2 or 3 lines that perform well, I guess. And I don't mean for it to be performative, right? But it's just having something prepared that it's truly you, it's authentic, but it's a little bit more polished.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I know the last date that I went on recently, I felt like there were a couple times like in my responses, I just kind of like, I would say one thing but didn't feel like enough. So then I would like kind of like throw something else in there. And then I was like, in my head, I'm like, I don't think that was what I like. I just started saying stuff at that point, and
yeah.
I mean, maybe they picked up on it, maybe they didn't. But I had kind of a reckoning of like, maybe I should have a little bit more of like a preparation going into my dates, so that way I'm not feeling like sometimes I'm like being cornered and not knowing what to say. So then I just start just nonsense.
I agree with you. I think that there's an element of confidence that's developed when you know that the date is going to go well, or you're going to quote unquote perform well on the date. And part of it is practice, right? But I think part of it's preparation. I think it really can help dating go more smoothly.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there are different types of dates. I've been on dates where the other person didn't ask me a single question, and then it just kind of became a game of like, how long can we go?
Yeah.
Or they would just give one-word answers, and they would expect me to carry the entire conversation on the date. And honestly, I would take those opportunities to just practice in either case. Like how can I show up in a authentic, fun way that this date can still go well, knowing that I'm never going to go out with this person again, but still can get something out of it and practice some social skills.
Get some reps in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want to go back to something you said about dating casually. So you mentioned that you're finding a lot of people are dating casually right now. What do you think, or why do you think people are dating casually? What is the benefit?
The world we live in now is so automated and instant gratification that bleeds into dating lifestyles of just kind of always wanting another hit of like feeling good and feeling validated. So that really is tailored towards something more casual than like kind of a slow burn, like choosing that same person over and over again. So yeah, I guess the benefit there being is that kind of like dopamine you get from it. And then in Austin specifically, with it being such a young and energetic city, I think it fits the lifestyle of the city better. There's always something to do, so there's always something new to do it with, or someone new to do it with, rather.
Novelty.
Yeah, novelty is a great way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. And you said dopamine, and I think a lot of us are on this dopamine wheel. And speaking from personal experience, there were a few years where I was on the apps and I was dating casually, and I was very upfront about looking for just casual. I was not dating for a long-term relationship. But the reason why I wasn't was because I was so happy single, especially in a city like Austin with so many options. And so I would have these really great casual relationships, and they weren't even necessarily short term. We had an understanding that this could be months, right? It wasn't going to be a forever thing,
Right.
but we enjoyed spending time with each other and we were getting something out of it. We were also, I think this lands into situationship land where you're getting the benefits of a long-term relationship, some of them anyway, but without any of the responsibility. And so it's really difficult to try to convince someone, hey, get off this dopamine wheel, which feels really good and is a lot of fun.
Right.
And particularly for the people who are in the top percentage of daters who have a very easy time getting dates, it's difficult to say, hey, go on this other path where you're going to invest in one person instead, where you don't have the novelty, you don't have all of the dopamine hits that you're getting. It's something that I've thought a lot about recently because with Crux Compatible, I curate a group of the most eligible singles in Austin. Everyone's dating intentionally. And it's tough to get guys because there aren't a lot of guys. There are a couple problems, but one of the problems is that there aren't a lot of guys who are dating intentionally.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can convince them. I think this is one of these unteachable lessons where they just have to get through their journey and then they come to the end and go, oh, actually, being in a committed relationship with an amazing woman who is kind and caring and supportive and, 10x's my output and who I am as a person is actually the better way. You just kind of have to go through it. So anyway, that was a long-winded soapbox answer, but I think that what you were saying about the dopamine wheel and the dating casually, it's maybe just a process based on our dating culture that a lot of people need to get through.
Yeah. And what you were saying too, like, I feel that the guys that are dating casually, if they end up meeting a girl that are like, oh, actually, like, this is something I'd want to pursue, like, that's one thing that can happen, but to explicitly state, okay, I'm going to only date intentionally is a lot harder to do. Like, once the opportunity presents itself to date somebody very seriously, I think some people are really great about taking that opportunity. But for you as somebody who's trying to run a matchmaking business, getting guys that are willing to take that step of like a leap of faith, almost of being like, okay, I'm going to step off and kind of make it happen instead of just waiting for it to happen.
Yes.
And girls are way more comfortable with being like, no, I'm tired of this. Like, let's get serious.
Absolutely. And I have found that when I ask women, they are way more likely to be interested in joining. Because when I say, hey, I have guys who are actually dating intentionally, high caliber, high quality guys, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about like value. And they're very interested. And it blows my mind when I ask guys and really, I have the most beautiful, amazing women in my database, women that they cannot find on Hinge. And it's, very difficult, I would say, for them to find these women out in the wild generally. And I am telling them I will literally set you up on a date with these beautiful, amazing women. And they're like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, okay.
Like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the casualness of dating has increased. And I think that dating apps are a big part of that. I think our world has just gotten a lot bigger, both in actuality, it has gotten bigger because we have more access to people. I also think that there's a perception that there are infinite options and we can date forever,
right,
until we find the quote unquote perfect person. And there are no perfect people. We're never going to find that perfect person. There are always going to be flaws or foibles in someone. And so the second a flaw comes up, we're out, and I think that's part of the unteachable lesson is that you eventually have to realize you're never going to find the perfect person. And I'm not going to say the settle word, right? Like people are so triggered by that, but you have to get to a point where you realize these are the qualities that matter in a partner. And these are my deal breakers. And as long as someone comes to the table with these important qualities, I'm done.
Yeah.
Versus, I don't know, they chew with their mouth open or whatever it is.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think our, like, the older generations have kind of set the stage for us in a sense of, like, we saw in older relationships, like, they would more likely to do the settle word of kind of, because that's what you just had to do. You had to have a husband and you had to have kids. So we are in this, like, weird middle ground of, like, not wanting to settle and then not wanting to commit. I'm glad for the progress that we've made of being like, you don't have to marry anyone anymore. But then sometimes I think the bar gets set almost a little too high.
Yeah.
And I think I'm kind of guilty of that sometimes, of just expecting a man to be perfect. And I'm by no means perfect. So yeah, I can't. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, do you mind telling me about that? What are the qualities that you're looking for that might land into the quote unquote perfect zone?
See, I've been trying to break that down, so I can, like, almost like manifest the right person for myself. And I would say my, like, deal breakers for dating and, like, what personal qualities I want out of somebody is to be, they have to be funny. That's a huge deal breaker for me. Patient, intelligent, kind, and, like, romantic. I think those are things that I have learned I need out of a partner. Otherwise, I start feeling like I'm not being loved correctly, or that, like, there's something's missing.
Sure.
So yeah, those are my 5, like, personality traits that I feel like if a guy can be all those things, like, you know, there's physical aspects I like and don't like, but generally I think if I could find that in a man, that would be perfect.
That's great. Yeah. I don't think that's too high a bar. I think, like, those are great qualities.
It's very reasonable.
That's very reasonable.
I've brought it down. I mean, I could get into icks and stuff like that, but I'm working on getting past those.
You're working on the icks. Okay.
Yes.
What is the shortest guy that you would date? So you're 5'2" and 3/4.
5'2"
right?
and 3/4.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've dated somebody who's probably like 5'7". And that was, like, fine. I know I definitely am, like, attracted to guys that are a little bit taller than that, but yeah, I don't think I need to be the one sitting there being like, oh, if you're under 6 feet, like, I can't take that, like, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And people are more than their physical attributes. So yeah.
So the data actually shows that women are most attracted to men who are 6 to 8 inches taller than them. And so the 6 foot requirement that sometimes is proposed out there,
right,
is not actually accurate on either count. If a woman is 5'10", 6 foot might not be enough from that internal wiring of what you might find attractive.
Right.
And for smaller women or shorter women, you know, someone who's 5'2", someone who's 5'8" might be perfect. Like, that would be the kind of the perfect height window. Are there any red flags that you spot early on dates that you clock and immediately say, hey, this is not going to be for me?
Yeah. I mean, I would say something where, like, clearly they didn't put a lot of thought behind the date is a huge red flag for me. Like, I've had times where the dates was planned for weeks, but then we get there and they're like, oh, I didn't make a reservation. And that's just one of those things where it's like, what are we doing here? One thing for me personally, I notice is, like, how they talk about the homelessness community in Austin. Because homelessness is a problem. And I understand that, like, there can be bad things about it. But sometimes I can pick up on really, like, ugly attitudes towards the existence of homeless people. And that's a personal thing for me where it just feels kind of inhumane.
Yeah.
Something that I don't really particularly like seeing in another person.
Yeah. Maybe there's a value of compassion that's important to you that's lacking in those.
Yeah.
That's a guess. But.
No. I think that's actually very perfect. Because especially with, like, the work that I'll be doing, I feel like it demands so much compassion. And I think I'm compassionate at heart. So while I know you can be different from your partner, that's one of those things where I think it's better you're kind of aligned on. And that's one of those, like, kind of quick ways for me of, like, yeah, maybe we're not compatible in that sense.
Yeah. This actually ties back to what you said about manifesting your partner.
Mm-hmm.
I just did an interview with Rachel. Well, her account's Rachel Lately. I actually don't know her last name. She's the 512 Bites woman here in Austin.
Yes, I actually saw that. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And she talked about writing a letter, manifesting her partner, and she met him 10 days later. And
so cool.
there's actually some science-backed reasons why this works, and it's getting your brain to filter out and get really clear about what you're looking for. And so you end up spotting the qualities that you're actually wanting in a partner, and you're quickly removing the people that don't have the qualities that you're looking for.
Yeah.
It also helps in terms of your own behavior of not spending your time on the wrong people. It's more quickly working through the noise and getting to the people that resonate with you. And so I love the practice of literally writing down, this is the person that I want as a partner. Here are the qualities that I want, and here's how I want them to make me feel. I think that's something, I think that's a great place to start, actually. And that's where I started. I'd been in those previous long-term relationships, and the feeling I had in those relationships was anxiety. And again, a lot of that had to do with me. And the short version of this is that our attachment styles were mismatched. So I'm avoidant leaning and they were anxious leaning. And so I would always feel like they wanted something from me. They wanted this connection seemingly all the time. It was too much for me. And so I would feel this anxiety. And what I was looking for was calm and peace. And I wanted to feel that around my partner. And once I got really clear about how I wanted to feel in a relationship, it really helped point me to the values and the personality characteristics that I wanted in a partner. And then I wrote those down. I actually did a whole journaling exercise about this. And sure enough, a few months later, my girlfriend popped up. And I think it was because I'd gotten really clear about how I wanted to feel and the type of person that would help me feel that way. And she is that type B, more like relaxed, like, we'll figure it out type of person.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that gives me anxiety. She'll literally make her coffee in a mug and then get in her car and just like put the coffee mug open.
What are you doing?
I know, what the hell? My previous girlfriends would never have done that. They would have a lid. Yeah. But like that type of quality shows up in other ways, in really beautiful ways. I also think it's funny, and it is kind of beautiful in and of itself. It's
endearing. Yeah,
it's
you
endearing.
Love it now.
Yeah. So anyway, I love the exercise of manifesting your partner, not because I believe the universe will magically deliver your partner in an energetic kind of way, although what do I know? It's possible.
Yeah.
You never know.
Energy's energy.
But I do think that there is a psychological reason why that works. How are you feeling about dating in this moment?
In short, I feel optimistic because I know that like the energy that I'm putting towards dating and how I'm trying to show up for it now, like if I'm doing the right things, I'll find the right person. But I do feel I'm in an environment that's not fit for that at the same time. So it's discouraging, but I'm trying to at least not feel stressed about it, and knowing that, you know, what's meant for me will find me, and that as long as I'm showing up and doing the things right of like being honest with people I'm dating and being honest with myself about what I want out of it, then the right thing will eventually come along.
I think you nailed it. Yeah, that's a perfect perspective to have. And yeah, I agree. It's a tough environment anywhere to date in this time period that we're in, especially in a city like Austin with so many options and people's heads are on a swivel, and it's a tough environment. But it sounds like you are doing the right things. Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the things that you're doing that are putting yourself in the right mindset or the right even physical places to meet people?
I mean, I'm open to pretty much, I might want to say anyone, that sounds a little crazy, but I think I just try to take a very like open approach. And so when somebody says like, hey, I have a friend that I think you'd hit it off with, even if I'm not seeing pictures of them. I don't know anything about them. I'm like, okay, well, like, let's go. Let's see what this is going to be about.
I love that.
So yeah, just trying to like take every opportunity and put myself out there and not just like discount anyone for any, aesthetic reason. I'm just trying to like get as much dating experience as possible, and seeing where that kind of takes me. And like we kind of talked about, like preparing for them or reflecting on them afterwards and being like, okay, how am I going to show up for this next date and what I want to get out of these next dates if there is a second or a third date.
Yeah, those are really good.
Yay. Yeah. It's validating, it's because it's like you always just wonder if you're doing the right things. And I know I've kind of talked about like worrying if I'm like doing too much too soon, or I think for so long I kind of ran on the assumption thing of like, isn't that what dating is? You kind of like, you don't talk about it, but you vibe check it. And yeah, I've finally learned that that's not how it's going to go. It doesn't work well that way.
You're talking about the vibe check, like not being like, just let's see what happens and it'll just work out. You're saying that there needs to be some level of structure to it.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I think at least at this point, I mean, with my intention, it could be very different if I didn't want something serious. That's totally fine to kind of just like go with the flow. But I'm more type A than that.
Sure.
And I think I've just had my share of being like, okay, casual datings happen, but that's just not where I want to be anymore.
Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you.
What is something you've learned through dating and relationships that you wish you knew from the very beginning?
Recognizing that just because you have a lot of interest in somebody, that doesn't mean they're meant to be like a partner for you. Like I've been on the end of liking somebody so much and thinking, well, clearly if I like them this much, like this has to be my person, when I kind of believed more in like a soulmate situation. I still think there's soulmates, but just that I don't have to sit there and accept somebody who's not putting in as much as I'm putting in. Mm-hmm. I just always believed that, if I like liked someone enough that almost like my love for them could change their mind or eventually manifest into their love for me. And it just doesn't work like that. I feel like I was the girl in my like most serious relationship of kind of like clawing for these like this validation and stuff. And if I would have stood up for myself and been like, this isn't good for me, or if he would have been like, this isn't good for you, it would have saved both of us so much heartbreak in the end. But yeah, that's just a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And makes me want to ask you a question if I can.
Yeah, of course.
It seems like the common pattern with dating is like avoidant men and then anxious women. And I know that you don't have to have the same attachment style, but like, how do you bridge that gap, especially as like a matchmaker?
Sure.
Yeah, that seems really difficult.
Yeah, so I actually have an attachment style questionnaire within my compatibility questionnaire, and I grade people on a scale from a level 1 avoidant to a level 5 avoidant and a level 1 anxious to a level 5 anxious. Mm-hmm. And so as an example, I would never match a level 5 anxious with a level 5 avoidant. Right. It just wouldn't work, right? Yeah. And it's a complex answer because there's all sorts of elements of, can you move the needle on your attachment style? Like, can you go from a level 5 avoidant to a level 3 avoidant? And the answer is yes. And it also depends on who your partner is. Your partner can move you more towards a secure place. For example, I'm avoidant leaning as a default, but I show up in my relationship as so much more of a secure partner because my partner creates a really safe space for me to be able to take space if I need it. And I find I need less and less of it because I know it's a safe place.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So I just become more of a secure person. So to answer your question, how do you bridge the gap? I think one of the things is to first understand your own attachment style and what are some things that we can each do to move the needle by ourselves. And some of that is just understanding what triggers me. What are the things that happens that my partner does that triggers me, and how can I understand that better and understand that it's not my partner, it's me that's creating a narrative, and then I'm reacting and getting triggered. Understanding where that comes from in our history. So our attachment styles are created from our childhood. And a lot of times it's the relationship we had with our parents. And if we can understand that relationship and where that attachment style came from, that's also a really great first step to helping heal and understand our internal stuff.
Yeah.
And lessening the amount of times or how quickly we get triggered, and also the intensity of it. There are ways that you can bring someone closer to you by making it a safe space.
Yeah.
And so if you can spot when your partner may need a little bit more space or is feeling like the intimacy or the type of intimacy is too intense, recognizing that and being able to back off a little bit and giving them that safe space. Doing the soft startups when there is a conflict and you want to bring something up. The way that you argue, right, and the soft startup is part of that, is a way that you can, and I'll give you a very, very practical example, is taking breaks. So important. If you can see that your partner is starting to get agitated or triggered, you can say, hey, this is starting to get a little intense. Like, why don't we just take a little break? And let's come back in 20 minutes. And if we need more time, that's fine. For an avoidant, like, holy shit, like that feels so good. Like, I don't have to figure all this out right now. And they're not getting triggered and they're making this a safe space for me.
Yeah.
And eventually, I feel like you can bring the anxious and the avoidant together a little bit towards that secure place.
Right.
That being said, if you're starting too far apart on the spectrum, I think it's just too difficult of a problem to solve.
Yeah, because I would say too, I've read about attachment styles, and I feel like in like that relationship I was giving the example of, where I was anxious and he was avoidant. Like, I would try to do those things of being like, well, okay, like, you clearly like don't like doing this, so maybe I'll give you that kind of space. But I think, well, obviously he had to be doing the right things for me too, but I think at the end of the day, like, we might have just been too far apart in general, and so we weren't made to work out from the start. And having that understanding, like, I just probably didn't want to face it at the time, because I could sense it, right? The whole time I'm like, something's not right, but, like, again, you get lost in your feelings for somebody. And I think I also believed at the time, like, if I had dated somebody at, like, that's, I don't want to say that seriously, but, like, it was like the first time I felt like I had started dating somebody that I was equally interested in from the start. Because I feel like a lot of times, especially when I was younger, it was more like the boys would be more interested in me, and I was kind of like, I mean, whatever. And I feel like that narrative was kind of switched. But yeah, it was the first time that I'd felt like I had worked hard to, like, achieve this relationship. So I was like, I have to do everything I can to maintain it. And that's not healthy at all. Yeah. People
can feel that energy, right?
Yep.
Particularly us avoidants, we can feel that and we get a little scared about the intensity of it. I'll throw one more thing at you that I think is really helpful, in addition to taking the breaks, is getting really specific about your ask. And so a lot of times there are situations where someone just wants to talk through their emotions, and they'll say, hey, I'm so upset that you always leave dishes in the sink. And I know that sounds like there's a request in there.
There's no real ask.
But there's no real ask.
Yeah.
And as guys, if you give us something really specific to do, and especially if we get rewarded for it, we'll jump to do it. Yeah. And so if it were phrased as, hey, I really love it when the sink is clean for the night, it makes me feel so taken care of, would you just do me a favor and, like, just clean the sink out, like, before we go to bed? Like, that would make me feel so loved. Like, guys are gonna do that. So it's just a way of being very specific about what you want, and then the way you're delivering the ask is couched as, I would feel so loved if you did this for me, versus you don't do this and it pisses me off. Yeah,
the changing the whole, like, framing of the issue at hand, and being like, I would like, instead of you know, pointing that finger. So I like that. I always know, like, have an action item, because I always hate when you are, like, in a conflict with somebody and they just kind of say something, you're like, what do I do with this, right? Like, I'm happy to do something, but what do I do?
Right.
But then not only making it where it's clear what action to take, but putting that action out there in a very like soft, gentle way of, I love this. Can you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, love that.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I feel like it's so helpful to get your perspective. And if there are guys out there who are interested in contacting you, A, are you up for that? And B, if so, how can they do that?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. Would I plug my Instagram?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
You could follow me on Instagram. My name's Isabelle Tropea on Instagram. I don't know if I should. I don't know where to look there.
I can put it in the caption too.
Just put it somewhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, slide in our DMs.
Do it.
All right. This was perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.